Hey guys, Nike here. A ways back, I made a build guide for Hammer Spellbreaker, but after that, the game power creeped a bit, and the release of Spears with Janthier Wild sort of put the build behind the times, and it was quite outclassed by a lot of other options, especially in the Berserker department. The last balance patch, though, brought Hammer Spellbreaker back to competitive DPS while retaining its excellent CC and defensive abilities and quality of life. The same patch led to the creation of a Hammer Berserker build, a build I also really love and made a video guide for, so if that interests you, check out that video on my channel. So you might ask me why and when to play Spellbreaker if you're so in love with the Hammer Berserker. For the most part, they do identical DPS, but the Berserker has superior CC ability and actually feels a bit tankier thanks to Blood Reckoning giving you a full heal every 15 seconds with a 3-second invuln phase while it's up. The drawback is that Hammer Berserker is very tight on Berserk uptimes. If the fight has pretty much any movement or the boss goes invulnerable from time to time, you may struggle to maintain Berserk uptime and your DPS can suffer quite a bit. For fights like that, Spellbreaker is clearly superior. Additionally, you may just prefer the Spellbreaker rotation and animations, which is definitely a legit reason to play a build. In any event, this build does great DPS, has an easy to learn rotation, and can contribute good CC, and is among the tankiest PVE DPS builds. So if that interests you, please stick around for the rest of the guide, and we'll go over everything. Alright guys, let's talk gear. Our gear is going to be full Berserker with superior rune of the Scholar and mighty infusions. For weapons, we are going to go Hammer with Force and Hydromancy, as well as a Dagger Mace with Force and Air. It is worth mentioning that on fights with frequent break bars like Slothosaur or Samurog, you can get a lot of value from a Severance Sigil on your hammer instead of the Hydromancy. So if you really want to min-max, it can be worth having for those fights. Now, with that said, for consumables, the food that we're going to use is a power ferocity food like cilantro, lime, sous vide steaks. And for utility consumables, we are going to go with superior sharpening stones. If you are Richie Rich and money is no object and you want just the best performance that you can get, you can always use Writs of Masterful Strength instead of the Potent Superior Sharpening Stones for a nice little DPS increase. That's basically it for gear. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. If you guys have any questions about gear, please ask me in the comments below. And I guess the one last thing I would say about the gear is obviously you should be using Relic of the Claw. So with that said, any questions down below, and we will move on to traits and skills. For traits, we are going to take Strength, Defense, and Spellbreaker. You probably know the Strength traits by heart if you've played Warrior anytime in the last 10 years. But without further ado, it is Peak Performance, Great Fortitude, and Berserker's Power. These are big fat DPS boosters, no real nuance to discuss there. With Defense, we are going to take Kolaweek, Merciless Hammer, and Stalwart Strength. Worth pointing out that Merciless Hammer gives us Adrenaline when we disable a foe, which helps make our rotation work. And Stalwart Strength gives you stability when you CC an enemy. So the ability to generate self-stability really makes this build quite good in Pugs, because even if your teammates are subpar, you can usually count on having stability in key moments. And the last thing I want to mention is that we do have Adrenal Health with this build, which means when you're at 4 stacks, which is the maximum, you will be getting a nice bonus heal per second that is quite comfy and gives you quite a bit of sustain actually, on top of the regeneration that you'll get from your raid group. For Spellbreaker, we are going to take Pure Strike, Sun and Moon Style, and Mage Bane Tether. These traits are really here to boost our DPS. Not much to comment on, other than the fact that Mage Bane Tether can be very finicky, and there are some fights where it won't work or works kind of weirdly. So you will need a little bit of experience in the build to sort of figure out what fights that you really can't use this build to great effect on, and perhaps should roll to something else. Now for skills, the healing skill that I'm going to recommend is Mending, because it can proc peak performance, and the Condi Cleanse is often relevant. For elite skills, we are going to use Winds of Disenchantment because it helps give us some bonus damage, and also starts our rotation off, as you'll see when we go over the rotation at the beginning of every fight. However, you can change Winds of Disenchantment over to Battle Standard if you want that hard res to help carry your group. And if you do that, you're going to need to start your rotation with a burst of adrenaline from To the Limit as your healing skill instead of Mending. As far as our utility skills go, it is very simple. Signet of Fury, Signet of Might, which just give us big stats. And then our last one is Bull's Charge, which is going to help fill in the CC gap and keep our attackers' insight stacks up on our dagger mace set, and, you know, give us a little bit of CC and peak performance uptime. So yeah, that's it for the skills. Let's talk about how this build actually plays. So the rotation of this build is very simple. It consists of a dagger opener, and then a hammer loop and a dagger loop, both of which the hammer and dagger loops repeat indefinitely. Just a little bit of practice will make you quite good at the rotation pretty quickly. So it's definitely something I can recommend to people who main another class and want to give Spellbreaker a try as a side build, as well as a comfy, easy to play, high performance build for people that do main warrior. One thing that is unique to Spellbreaker is the full counter burst skill that we get, and so I thought I'd give you guys a brief word on that. Now, you may be tempted to use full counter offensively to get more attackers' insight, and then, or perhaps to reset the cooldown on your Breaching Strike and get another Breaching Strike in. But I can safely say, after many hours of playing this build, that the best case scenario for resetting Breaching Strike would be a situation where you're fighting a boss, you use Breaching Strike, you immediately full counter, and then you use Breaching Strike again. Now, that is the absolute best case scenario, and I can say that that is at best a tiny DPS improvement over just doing your rotation, and is more often than not, doing that is going to be DPS neutral, and it's not going to actually give you bonus DPS. So you might think you're doing this techie cool thing that boosts your damage, but you're really not. And a lot of times you can really screw yourself if the full counter for some reason takes the full channel to go off, or perhaps the Breaching Strike only had 1 second of cooldown anyway. You really just really nuked your damage kind of for nothing. But that said, full counter is a very powerful button to have on your skill bar. So when should you use full counter? It's an ideal defensive button for situations where you need an invuln, and for whatever reason you can't hit the boss anyway, because either you're not nearby the boss, or because the boss is invulnerable, or you're fighting trash mobs. Because it's an AoE CC, it will definitely help you, CC a whole pack of trash mobs. Another good use of full counter are situations where you're left with the choice of either use the full counter or go downstate, or either use the full counter and get CC'd and knocked down for 3 seconds, or knocked across the arena by Samurag. If you're gonna go downstate or get hit by a big CC, full counter is 100% worth using to avoid that situation, because those are way bigger DPS losses than using the full counter. As always, I'm going to go over the DPS rotation in slow motion, and then give you a play-by-play of that, and then go over the rotation at normal speed. If you want a written guide to have as a reference, check out the Snow Crow's website for a full breakdown of the rotation. That said, I would be more than happy to answer any questions you have about the rotation in the comments below. All right, so the opener is going to be Winds of Disenchantment. followed by Bull's Charge to give us adrenaline. And then we are going to Breaching Strike, then Dagger 3, Mace 4, Mace 5, and then Mace 4 again. Then when that hits, we swap, and we Hammer 2, Hammer Burst, and then Hammer 4 and Hammer 3. Then we're going to do 2 complete auto attack chains. And then after the second auto attack chain, we are going to Hammer 2, Hammer 5, and then Hammer 2 again. And then our burst skill will be off cooldown, and we will Hammer Burst again, followed by Hammer 3 and a weapon swap, which will take us back to our dagger loop. So we go to dagger, we're going to Dagger 3, Mace 4, Dagger Burst, and then Dagger 2. We will then do 1 auto attack chain, followed by Mace 5. And then we're going to do 3 dagger auto attack chains, and then Bull's Charge. After the Bull's Charge, we will Dagger 2, Dagger Burst, Mace 4, Dagger 3, and then a weapon swap. Hammer 2, and we're going to do the hammer loop all over again. Hammer 2, Hammer Burst, Hammer 4, and then Hammer 3. Then again, just like the first time, Hammer auto attack chain twice. After the second hammer auto attack chain, we do Hammer 2, Hammer 5, Hammer 2. And then, as before, Hammer Burst, followed by Hammer number 3. Then we swap back to Dagger. And on Dagger, we lead with Dagger 3, then Mace 4, and then Dagger Burst again. And then we will Dagger 2. This time, and every time subsequent, we do not do the auto attack chain, and we go right to Mace 5. And then we are just going to do 4 auto attack chains before our Bull's Charge. And then after the Bull's Charge, we do Dagger 2, Dagger Burst, you guessed it, Mace 4, and Dagger 3. And that's the rotation. It will be a repeat of those hammer and dagger loops over and over again, now until the boss is dead. If there is an invuln phase in the boss, or like a split phase, like say Gorseval, you will reset your cooldowns on everything, and you will start from the beginning with a new burst at every phase. So yeah, that's it for the rotation. Now I will show it at full speed. All right, guys, if you made it this far, I just want to say thanks for watching. I really enjoy playing this build, and it's at the best place it's ever been in the meta. So you can't really go wrong with a build that's super fun and super effective. I do hope you guys all give this one a shot, and please let me know how you like it. I will see you next time, and once again, thanks for watching.